All right. So I am so honored that we're being joined today by State Senator Mike Gabbard. Senator Gabbard, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being Hawaii's Green Amendment champion. With your leadership, the amendment secured amazing traction and interest in the state of Hawaii over this past year, and we're really looking forward to the coming year and all of the amazing progress that you're going to accomplish. And so with that, I just want to jump right into our interview here and just would like to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to run for political office, how long you've served, and what are your priorities moving forward?
Okay. Aloha, Maya, and thank you for your work on this very, very important piece of legislation. And aloha, I am Senator Mike Gabbard, and I've represented Hawaii State Senate District 20 in West Oahu since 2006, which includes Kapolei, Makakilo, and portions of Kalailoa, Waipahu, and Ewa. And by the way, my totally unbiased opinion is that Senate District 20 is the most beautiful Senate district on the planet. I'm currently in my 5th year as the chair of the Senate Agriculture and Environment Committee. And prior to that, I was the chair of the Senate Energy and Environment Committee from 2009 to 2015. And I was also the chair of the Water, Land, and Agriculture Committee in 2016. So during this time, I authored 54 bills that became law relating to energy efficiency, renewable energy, agriculture, endangered species, protection, what else? Industrial hemp, the environment, public safety, and more. And prior to serving in the Senate, I served as a council member for the Honolulu City Council from 2003 to 2005. So your question, Maya, why politics? I never really gave it much thought about getting involved in politics until my wife did. We've been married for 53 years, but we were both former teachers back in the early 2000s. So it was a surprise to a lot of folks, including us, getting involved in politics. But first of all, Carol, she got elected to the statewide Board of Education from 2000 to 2004. And so she was actually the first one in our family to jump into the political arena. Now, when you hear the name Gabbard, most people think of my daughter, Tulsi, who was a congresswoman who became well known for representing our state in Congress. And as many people know, she also ran for US president in 2020. And it's interesting that after almost 20 years in public office, people don't call me Senator Gabbard anymore. They call me Tulsi's dad. So anytime I'm introduced or I'm giving a speech, our next speaker will be Tulsi's dad. So how it worked out was before we ran for elective office, Carol and I we'd watch the evening news and we get more and more frustrated about all the problems happening in the schools and local communities. I mean, so many issues from potholes to small business problems to protecting the environment, teachers not getting paid enough. And I realized it wasn't very productive to sit and complain and get angry and throw things at the news reporters on the TV set. So I really needed to do something if I wanted to make a difference. So instead of complaining about things, we decided to get involved and try to improve the quality of life here in Hawaii. And so when I started campaigning for office, my first thought was, what are the concerns and the issues that the people really care about? And, I had a vague sense of what the issues were from watching the news, but I decided to find out firsthand. So I started knocking on people's doors to introduce myself in District 1, the west side of Oahu, in Ewa Beach at one end of the district. And then about 5 months later, I ended up at the last house in Makaha, which is actually about the western tip of Oahu. I knocked on doors 7 days a week from about 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And at the end, I went to over 40,000 homes. I got 4 major dog bites, and sometimes people would yell at me to go away, but many times people would invite me to sit on their porch and they'd serve me a cold drink, and then they would pour their hearts out to me about potholes that had not been filled for years and the lack of response that they got from government. And so it actually turned out being one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Why? Because I got to hear firsthand from people what their needs and their concerns were. I took lots of notes, and the only promise that I made was that if I got elected, I'd do my best to help them. And it's funny, I still run into people at the grocery store who come up to me and say, do you remember me? You came to my house and asked for my vote about 20 years ago. And an interesting sidebar is that a few days after I started going door to door back in 2002, my extremely shy daughter, Tulsi, who was 21 at the time, she told me that she wanted to run for a state house seat. And I laughed because she had never expressed any interest in politics before. And at the time, she was focused on surfing and martial arts. And so I suggested that she knock on people's doors like I was doing and introduce herself. And she winced and she said, Dad, you mean like knock on strangers' doors and say, vote for me? I said, yep. And lo and behold, she started doing it a couple of days later. And so election night 2002 in Hawaii, I got elected to the city council. Tulsi won her race in the State House of Representatives. And at 21, she became the youngest person ever elected to the state legislature. So here's Carol's on the Board of Education. I'm now in the city council. Tulsi's in the State House of Reps. And so rumors started circulating that the Gabbards were trying to take over government in Hawaii. So that's how I got involved in politics.
Well, and that is a true testament to what an inspiration you are, that you could get your daughter to overcome her fears and anxiousness and, rise up with you through the politics to make a difference. That's fantastic. So can you tell us, just thinking about that door knocking and your own priorities, what are your primary concerns when it comes to the environment and environmental protection in Hawaii and beyond?
Well, there's so many concerns, when it comes to Hawaii and the environment. Off the bat, as an island state, Hawaii is ground zero for climate change. And so climate change, it presents an existential threat to Hawaii. In the near term, more intense and more frequent storms could leave us without food, water, shelter, and electricity, like Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria in 2017, I think it was. And especially since we stupidly import 85 to 90% of our food at a cost of about $3 billion every year. So our coral reefs, dying from ocean warming and other factors will no longer protect our shorelines. Sea level rise will inundate our shorelines, destroying billions of dollars of property. Declining rainfall will threaten our drinking water supply and crop production. I could go on and on. But however, aside from climate change, one of my primary concerns is how we, the people of Hawaii, are showing up for our island paradise. There's a sacred relationship, really, between Native Hawaiians and the Aina. The Aina, it's a Hawaiian word for the land. And it's the basis of culture, identity, and traditional and customary practices for Hawaii. Throughout generations, the Aina has given and given and given, asking nothing in return. So however, our Aina, our land, she needs our help. And the one who has given to us for all these years needs our help, and she needs it now. So it's time for all of us to step up for the one who has stepped up for us for all of these years.
Wow. So then given that, and all the important things you said about how important a healthy environment is to Hawaii, to the economy, and doing your duty, why did you decide to champion the passage of a Hawaii Green Amendment that recognizes and protects the rights of all people to a clean and healthy environment?
Well, a little bit more about about how the healthy environment part. It's just so important for our communities. We're all connected, right? All of our ecosystems are connected to one another. And so what we do has an effect on the rest. An example of this is pollution. Pollution's causing so much harm to our waters, our land, our air, the animals, our communities. And pollution can poison our soils and our waterways. So toxic chemicals can ruin entire species. Exposure to certain types of emissions, like the ones from fossil fuel plants, can threaten public health in many ways. And so the information is out there. Anyone can look it up. And come to think of it, that we as a people, the residents of this island paradise, we had a big role where the environment is today, right? We can point fingers and blame all we want to as how we got to where we are today, but that's not going to change anything. As I mentioned before, if we want to see the change we seek, we need to do something, which is why I decided to introduce the Hawaii Green Amendment Bill. And so, to answer your question, as leaders of our respective states, legislators, we need to lead by example, right? As a former educator, our youth hold a special place in my heart. And so when considering legislation or any other policy matter, I often think, how will this affect our future generations? Our youth is key. I've spent many years in office and many more years on this planet. And whenever I have a chance to work with our youth, I jump at it, because to impart whatever knowledge and wisdom that I've acquired to them, but also to learn from them as well. And one of the things I always tell our youth is to get involved. If you're passionate about something and you believe in something, stand up for it. Don't let anything hold you back. The Green Amendment is something that I'm passionate about. It's something I believe in. And what I like about the Green Amendment is that it's inclusion in the Bill of Rights. And by putting the Green Amendment in the Bill of Rights, it serves as a backstop, a sort of protection. So last session, when I introduced Senate Bill 502, Hawaii's Green Amendment Bill, our goal was to give the choice to the people as to whether or not they want to amend our state constitution to guarantee all individuals the right to have a clean and healthy environment. And by giving them the choice, it empowers the people to take proper action, right, towards creating and sustaining a clean and healthy Hawaii. And by doing this, it also creates a responsibility that says, I voted for the right to have a clean and healthy environment. Now, how am I personally living up to that standard? Am I helping the environment or am I hurting it? So we really all need to do our part.
And so how, just thinking specifically about environmental justice, such an important issue in Hawaii and across our nation, how will having a Green Amendment help you achieve environmental justice in Hawaii?
Yeah, it's, environmental justice is about providing all the people of our state with the same environmental protections, reaching out to involve everyone in the development of environmental policies, and ensuring that no one group of people should carry the burden of negative environmental situations, such as landfills, industrial areas, or waste treatment plants. So placing the Green Amendment in the Bill of Rights in our Constitution, it'll make it clear that our government will have to ensure that the environmental rights of all people, regardless of a person's race, color, national origin, or income, that they are all protected. And so the Green Amendment will add a self-executing right to a healthy environment to our Constitution. The amendment would fill a significant gap where there isn't a law yet to address serious environmental conditions or threats. And so it's needed to pass such an amendment until legislative protections can catch up and strengthen enforceable environmental rights that belong to all the people of Hawaii.
And to those who say that environmental rights don't belong in the Constitution's Bill of Rights alongside speech, property, gun, and civil rights, what would you say?
Well, what I would say, Maya, is that our health and quality of life are tied directly to our environment. If we live in a polluted, dangerous, and dirty environment, there will be more disease and other health-related problems. Environmental rights, they do belong in our Constitution alongside these other important rights. With climate change, environmental threats are likely to continue getting worse, and a Green Amendment will make it so that healthy environments are recognized as inalienable rights and will provide the necessary legal protections to ensure that we have pure water, clean air, and healthy ecosystems for generations to come.
And what can and should people be doing if they're interested in advancing your Hawaii Green Amendment? What's your advice to them?
Well, my advice, the truth is the right to have a clean and healthy environment, it's not going to be finished once the bill passes and the people vote for it. That's just the beginning. To have a clean and healthy environment and to sustain it so that our future generations can enjoy such a place will need the nurture, care, and participation of all. So to the people who are watching this video, if this is something that you're interested in, then get involved. Educate yourself with the appropriate and the relevant information. Connect with others who are involved, be it family, friends, community organizations, lawmakers, et cetera, and have those meaningful discussions on the issue, as well as discuss what appropriate actions need to take place. And please listen. That's very important. Also think for yourselves and come up with your own conclusion. But Maya, if I had to choose only one of these recommendations, that recommendation would be to connect with others who are involved. We can't do this alone. It takes, what's the Hawaiian word? Laulima. That's the Hawaiian word for many hands working together to get the job done. So if somehow we're able to come together and work together, this world that we wish to see for ourselves and our future generations can be a place of not just a fantasy, but a reality that we all can experience. But it's going to take work, it will take perseverance, and above all else, it will take aloha, love. Mahalo for having me today, Maya, and for all the work that you do for our people and for our environment.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for your beautiful words, the beautiful vision and your inspiration, and for your dedication to environmental protection and environmental justice. You really are truly a hero in the environmental movement and our Green Amendment movement. And I'm so grateful to you for your leadership and for truly being an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much.
Aloha.
Aloha.